All right, great. Now we've been through the entire process, the super intense process of retouching a shoe, just like I do in my studio every day. Now, it may seem really obsessive and very systematic and technical, and that's good because once you've got that system nailed down, you can apply that to any shot. I know I said that before, but I'm going to show you exactly how a shoe shot, a commercial shoe shot, and the system that we use to attack that at a molecular obsessive retouching level can totally be applied to a lifestyle image too of an athlete. Again, the authentic integrity of this image is important because now we're dealing with a lifestyle image that has all these environmental qualities. It has an athlete in it. It's not just a shoe that's shot on a seamless where we can really pull that apart and create an artificial sort of creative direction with that. We need to preserve the reality of this photograph while still using the same system that we used to attack that commercial product shot. Let's open this image now and I'll talk a little bit about it. All right, let's break down what I'm seeing here in the image. First, we've got our athlete in the foreground. He's sort of in this reflection moment. It's happening after the action in terms of breaking down the story here. He's looking off into the distance, into the future. It's kind of a nice story element. And into the background where we've got this building with some nice perspective lines that are moving behind him to start to create some space all the way back to this ship here that's helping to give the scene a little bit more context in terms of the waterfront theme here. And the city horizon back here, moving across as a strong horizontal element. Now, some of these things I like, some of them I don't. This lamppost is a little bit distracting here. I don't know about these flags necessarily up here. The ship is a pretty strong element as well as the city skyline here. I may want to remove some of these elements. The client may want to remove some of them. So one element that I really like that can be pretty easy to overlook, and I think it's important to recognize, are the clouds back here behind the athlete. They're really dramatic, and one of the fortunate accidents maybe that happened here is some of the lines coming directly out from his face here, which is going to be our connection point to him. I like the story that's getting created here of this stormy area behind him moving out into a directional force that's moving out into the future here. I think it's important to break these things down, and it's a nice practice to just do a see and say of your image. Just go through and start naming things and what they're doing in the image and how they're working. But the next step I'm going to do is go through, open this up, and actually mark down some of these elements that I just went through and named. So I'm just going to open this up and mark it up in Photoshop. First, though, need to make sure in the settings for the raw module, I have this button checked. Open in Photoshop as Smart Objects. I'll show you why that's important. So I'm just going to bring up a new layer on top. Go to the brush tool. And pick some kind of bright color that I can mark up with and see really easily. So I've got the brush tool active with a nice bright color that I can mark up with. I'm going to go full screen with my image and start making notes on a new layer. So I'm building a roadmap of where I'm going to go. Now, what I know about this image is that the client has told me that we're going to swap out the shoes with new shoes. We're going to change the color of some parts of the kit, including the shirt and the tights. So what I can do is just start circling the things that I know I need to change. Now on the tights, I know that these panels need to go to black. And I know that the shirt needs to go to black too. Now, if you're not comfortable marking this up with the brush tool, because you can see my markup can be pretty hard to read for anybody other than me, you could also use the type tool to do this. I just like using the brush tool because it's quick and easy for me to do. All right, so I mentioned before that I don't like this lamppost. Now, that's a pretty big change to make right off the bat without having that direction from the client. So I think it's probably going to need to go, but I'm not going to put all that work in on this stage until I know that my client actually wants a big change like that. So I'm just going to note that with a little X and a question mark so that I know that's not something I'm going to action right now, but it's something that I'm saving for later. Also, I don't really like those flags up there. They're a little bit distracting. Maybe this element by the wrist. And I think this whole horizon with these buildings is a little bit distracting too. But once again, I'm not going to do a dramatic change like that to the image until I got that straight with the client. Now, what's going to be most important to the client, of course, is going to be the apparel, the products that are on the athlete, and the athlete himself. They want to get that looking absolutely primo because that's what's selling the product and selling the story. Beyond that, there's other stuff that we can look at in the image, standard kind of garbage cleanup, stuff like that. But the big deal is going to be polishing the shirt, the shorts, the tights, and the shoes, and including the athlete's skin and beauty work to a really, really high degree. Now, I talked about the changes that we were going to make pretty casually. I said, okay, we're going to change the white shirt to black. We're going to swap the shoes. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, those look like pretty big changes to me. And they certainly, on the one hand, are. But since this is such a usual thing for me to do day to day, I get requests like this every single day with almost every shot that I have to retouch. And I know that there's a system to tackle each of these tasks. With the shirt, I know that probably I can change that white shirt to black. Might be a little bit tricky, but I have that system down pat. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. With the shoes, now I know that we're not going to just go out and find some stock photography that's going to fit into this photo. And I know for sure that I can't use something like Illustrator Line Art or some other type of photograph that was maybe used in the client's collateral or website or something like that. I know 100% for something like that, we're going to need to shoot some new shoes and composite those on. And that system is exactly the same as what we did with Adam's shoe previously. We follow the same steps, except in this case, we're going to take that finished shoe that we had lying on that orange background. We're going to take these new shoes that are built in the same exact way, composite them into this scene in a realistic manner where you can't tell that they were composited in.